Hey guys, and welcome to my second run as DM for the Lost Mines of Phandelver. Where we left off, I believe I told you about my cleric who had subdued a goblin by making her eyes flare up, thaumaturgy, and the ground shake and her voice get really, really loud. I believe it was 3 times the sound. And use this to intimidate the goblin into submission, right? So, they had this goblin, I believe, Gricknack, or something like that is what I ended up calling him. They renamed him Vic and told him, that's your new name, Vic. The goblin was telling them that he was on his way back to their hideout, right? So, okay, that makes sense. This is now, they've pieced it together that Gundren and Sildar were dragged to this hideout. Asked the goblin to lead the way. On the way, the goblin, there's a couple of traps along the way. They avoided that fairly easily. And I kind of played it off like, oh, well, you notice right now that the goblin's kind of moving closer to one side of the trail than the other. And, you know, I gave that based, since they weren't trying to be sneaky, I went off their passive perception skills for it. They were fairly easy to spot anyway, so I figured it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Wasn't. They noticed them. They kind of started to get the idea that, oh, well, the first chance this goblin, who we believe is ours, is going to tuck tail and run. So they get out to the clearing where the cave entrance is. They're hearing the water and everything like that rush by, and I had kind of played with the sounds because I'm running sound on it. I have a subscription to Sirenscape, so thank you for that, guys. That's a great website. But with their great sound, I was kind of giving it that ambiance of, okay, you're out in the woods, now you're out in the woods near a stream, and they started debating, okay, there's the mouth of the cave, what are we doing, how are we going to do this, and they were starting to try and figure all that out. They did it long enough, but they weren't necessarily being loud about it, so I didn't want to just say, okay, well, now you're under attack by a couple of goblins that are hiding in the bushes on the other side of the creek. The water's supposed to be fairly noisy, so... and they're not supposed to be paying that much attention. So, at this point, I kind of had Vic start to try and start backing away and sneaking away. And I asked for everyone to make a quick perception roll. The high enough perception was made that one of them saw that Vic was inching away. And was a little further away than he probably should have been at that point. Quickly dispatched of him. They decided he wasn't worth allowing to either escape or continue to keep. It was clear and evident to them that he was going to try and betray them. So Vic was dead, and they started asking questions. Well, why was he trying to run away? And so I said, well, make an investigation check to who I can't remember who it was that asked the question. And so they did, and they rolled really high. And so I said, well, through your investigation, you realized that Vic wasn't running towards the mouth of the cave. The mouth of the cave is that way. The straight way to go would be that way. He was more running off to the bush. Okay, so they're like, well, and with some people, they would insight right away on their own head, in their own personal self, would insight, well, is that because he's just trying to run to the bush and run away? Or is that because he's trying to run to the bush because there's someone, he knows there's going to be someone in the bush? They were, so I think they were kind of trying to figure that out, and it was taking a little bit longer, so I let them roll an insight on it. They figured that, and the high roll was high enough to say, yeah, you've pretty much figured out that if he was going to run, he would have run in the path of the woods on the way here. he was running towards something. So they were able to then sneak across the water and beset the 2 goblins that were in the bushes there, and then continue on to the cave. There they came upon a room of, and once inside the cave, came upon a room of wolves that were definitely not their friends. A couple of animal handling checks with some food for help, and they were able to subdue the wolves. At this point, they went further on into that same room, which has a chimney. And this chimney goes up about 30 feet and leads actually to the main villain of the cave, his bugbear named Clark. Our cleric in heavy armor that had intimidated and was doing all this stuff decided she wanted to climb this chimney. So this dwarven cleric in chainmail starts climbing up the chimney, and I decided, okay, well, there are 3 checks especially because of your height. And slowly, one by one, I made it as suspenseful as I could. Finally made it all the way up there. Now, on that last check, I also made them roll a stealth check. I made her roll a stealth check. She's in chainmail, so she was at disadvantage. And I think I gave it a DC according to what his passive perception would be. Actually, it was according to what the wolf's passive perception was going to be, because they are more perceptive. And up there, there's a wolf. It's bigger than the ones that they just faced. Clark, the bugbear, and a couple of goblins. So she happened to beat the passive perception of the wolf, and she peeked up and noticed. I described the bugbear according to the picture in the manual. I said, you notice the goblins. And you notice a wolf that is larger than the one that you had, and you can assume it's probably more of an alpha wolf or something of that nature. And at this point, she decided to stealth back down to 10 feet and then start climbing back down the rest of the 20. Made it as suspenseful as I could, making her roll every time, and everyone was kind of going, oh my gosh, is she going to fall and kill herself? But got through it without any issue. Cleric with strength, man. Worked out with the athletics, right? So we got done. She got down to told everyone what she saw, and they decided to go around the other way. And they figured they weren't all going to make that climb, and not quietly either. Proceeded along, and they got to they went out into the main area. Were noticed. One of them caught a flash of green on the bridge up ahead. Decided not to tell anyone about it, and as they were inspecting the path off to the left, a rush of water came by. For those of you that know the adventure, that was a goblin on the bridge, went to go warn people of the intruder, and there are 2 large pools that are fed by a waterfall that lead into this area. They knocked the first wall down and flooded the cave. Everyone made their dex checks, so they didn't have to worry about getting washed away. But then they proceeded up the path to the left. I had set a timer while they were trying to figure out what to do. That was going to be reflective of, okay, here comes the next wave of water, because they would crack the wall, having noticed that they were still there, and try and wash them out again. So that at this point they went over to the left and met up with another pack of goblins, and went right into combat. During this fight, the room has kind of a ledge up above, a 10-foot ledge, where they noticed was a human being, human older male, kind of tied up, and a little bit more of an uglier goblin up there. The fight ensued. Our sorcerer got right up into everyone and was doing great. Our ranger was attacking from behind. Our clerics got up in there, and when the fight started going their way, the goblin up top, the uglier one, made his voice heard and screamed out, "Ah! Stop!" That's a taste of the goblin voice that I had. basically said, "Hey, no. We can work this out. I will give you this human if you guys stop." And they were kind of like, "Well, who is he to us?" Well, the bard tiefling at this point was unconscious. The only one that would have known who Sildar was, because when Gundren had hired her in Neverwinter to be a bodyguard until he met up with this group, he also had Sildar with him as a companion as well. So the bard tiefling was unconscious. No one really knew, and he said, "Otherwise, I'll kill him by throwing him down." Well, our other cleric, Lyra, who's a little bit more on the chaotic side, was like, "Go ahead." Tried to call the bluff. Yimik throws him down, and he goes unconscious. Our other cleric runs over, casts Spare the Dying on him, and the fight continued for a little bit longer until it came back around to Yimik's turn. And at this point, I had Yimik try and stop them again and say, "Listen, you go kill Clark. I give you reward and human." After some debating and talking it through, they kind of figured out this wasn't such a bad idea. I think I would have just finished off the group because there were only 2 goblins left. Yimik was just trying to do everything he could to stay alive at this point, and he talked him into going and getting Clark's head for him. So at this point, they were going to take a short rest and proceed. Our Bard and Sildar were both out for 2 hours, because Spare the Dying doesn't bring you back to life; it just keeps you from making death saving throws. So that's where we are, and the next game is coming up soon. Hope to have a lot of fun with it, and yeah, we'll see you guys then. Bye.